He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We are now simulcasting the last 2 hours and 52 minutes of the syndicated radio show at prisonplanet.tv. And for the next 2 hours, we are joined by researcher Alan Watt, who really is an expert on the eugenics, the architecture of the global slave state, the system that we're under. And today I want to get more into the architecture of the New World Order with Alan Watt and how their control grid works, the different Hegelian dialectic factions they use to create the synthesis of control. They openly write about this. They're quite proud of it. They say there's no way the slaves will even read this and care. Too few of them will. They claim they're all high and mighty and doing this for great scientific reasons to call the population to save the earth, but they're actually very sadistic and enjoy what they're doing from their own actions and their own statements and the very dark poetry they write about destroying the universe just for the willingness of it, just for the nihilistic enjoyment and the different strata, kind of the honeybee hive system that they're striving for. And certainly they're very specialized. The elites and the inbreeding creates a lot of mental illness, a lot of megalomania. I want to go over that with Alan Watt. And then later in this hour, into the next, taking your phone calls, get into the current operation because they're at a major jump point. They're launching the total global banking takeover publicly. They're launching the hate crimes, banning free speech, has passed the House, about to pass the Senate. Total federalization of all water simultaneously in England, Australia, Canada, United States, Europe, Africa. Sterilizations openly being announced. They're moving forward with massive gun restrictions in the U.S., the same thing they've done in Europe and in England and in Canada. It's all happening. They are moving with a total blanket amnesty, breaking down the borders, openly saying they want to break down and blow out the economy so we're all bankrupt and can't pay their property taxes. So they force us into compact control grid cities, animal ID, premises ID, to shut down the farms and ranches where small farms, $20 per chicken to have an RFID tag. Tyson gets waivers and has one tag per 1,000 chickens or one tag per building now of 500,000 chickens. I was corrected by some of the farm and ranch groups, and they sent me the documents. It could be per entire complexes of 20, 30 buildings with 100,000 chickens per building. I actually have a fellow who married one of my cousins, and so he lives out on the ranch in East Texas. He was telling me, because he goes and cleans out turkey and chicken coops industrially as his business with these big trucks he owns. He said, no. It's a tag per complex now. But the citizens, $20 tag per chicken, and SWAT teams are hitting them and hitting them hard in the news. Don't sell those organic eggs on the highway. Don't sell those watermelons. You don't have a license. If you come back, they send in SWAT teams in the news. And they don't even they send undercover police to buy the eggs or watermelons because they want to have it to be in the news to scare everybody. Then they raid the farmer's house on the news and put them in handcuffs and seize all their equipment. Folks, this is in the news every week now. So it's a total dehumanization, a total serfdom, a total culling. I want to try now to really let Alan Watt flow with this and break it down. Where should we start? At the end of what they're planning, or at the beginning, or their current operations, or this driving us off the land, or why are they moving on every front in hyperdrive? It looks to me like their system isn't in control, and they're kind of winning the race, but their Formula One car is starting to disintegrate. The pistons are starting to go out. Smoke starting to pour from the engine. Or do you disagree? Do you think things are going according to plan?
I think really they're going to plan because this is the century for change. And what they're talking about, of course, is this totalitarian world regime. And when you go as far back as the United Nations and then the League of Nations, the precursor, they set up a department for agriculture, for instance. In fact, they set up a department for everything that you need personally to live, to sustain your own life. Because the world they said they bring in is one where the common people could not rule and guide their own lives. It would be done by experts. And all private property, eventually, and all foodstuffs and all water would be given over to these quasi-private organizations that are really, is what Carol Quigley was talking about in Tragedy and Hope, a new feudal-type system. These big organizations to do with food and all energy and resources are all part of one military-industrial complex. At the United Nations, they said in their charter, one of their major speeches when they actually opened up the Department for Agriculture for the UN, they said that farming was too important to be left to farmers. And in other words, it was to be left to the big agri-food businesses. And that's what we've been watching for years now, as the big agribusinesses take over and put the small guys under with the help of government. Governments have been taxing farmers, putting restrictions on them to do with pollution and all the rest of it, and gradually getting them off the land. In comes the big boys, and they take them over for peanuts. So it's going to strategy exactly as they planned it to be. This is the century of change, where everything in their centuries of planning will come to fruition. They think that's what they truly believe. And they're on a roll right now. There's restrictions coming on everything across the board right now. And we're being trained and desensitized and trained to just accept and go along with everything that's given to us. And whenever a panel of experts speak on the environment or whatever, we're supposed to just believe it like that, like it's the gospel truth. They are the new priesthood. This is the new religion. And we find that Gorbachev, in one of his own books, said, after saying that he was an atheist, he said, we are creating a new world religion, and it must be based on a form of earth worship that's called environmentalism. That's what they're using, along with the purse, the power of the purse and taxation and fining, reinforced by government laws. So it's working and all tied so perfectly well together, meshed together, all at the same time, worldwide. Whatever happens in the U.S. is happening in Australia at the same time, for instance.
And this is not your opinion. It's all on record in thousands of public volumes.
Yep.
They've been building it for centuries off the British imperial model that took from the Roman and many others, openly studied at the imperial academies, as you know. And they keep tweaking it and refining it. And people say, well, how can this go on for generations? Carroll Quigley and many others explain that. How does a university go on for 500 years? How does a royal family go on for 500, 1,000 years? These are institutions that grow and expand and always fine-tune their science of propaganda, their science of feudalism, their science of serfdom. As you know, there are 2,000-year-old Julius Caesar manuals, 2,050-plus-year-old manuals on how to control populations that are very sophisticated, but nothing compared to the scientific sophistication now that we're facing.
And what we're seeing, too, is the incredible cohesiveness between all of these big institutions and so-called non-governmental organizations. It's a flawless web. They're all on board together on the same topics. And when you join one of these groups, you have to accept all the other groups' mandates as well, regardless. Put your own personal thoughts to the side, and you must be politically correct on every single topic today. It's total political correctness. And so you must go along with the environment, global warming, how they must restrict all our movements, all our travel because of global warming, etc., regardless of the NGO that you sign on for initially.
Continue.
And what they call it, too, is consensus building. They even have think tanks. That you're talking about institutions and how they can go on for centuries. Quigley said that. He said that if they set up an institution with a mandate, they can hire and retire generations of people, all working on the same mandate. So something that was started 200 years ago has gone on continuously working on the same mandate, its speciality, for 200-odd years.
And they install profitability. They use environmentalism as a tax to fund themselves. It's really feudalism.
Yes.
And then as they expand it, they're getting rich and more powerful themselves through each phase, almost like a coral reef.
It's incredible that there's a Google video up there. I have the link for it, where you'll hear Maurice Strong introduce Baron Rothschild. And Baron Rothschild stands up at this World Climate Change Conference and so on, and says we need another bank to deal. The public will have to fund by their tax money, by the way, but we need another bank to deal with environment. Well, of course, the bank's already been given a name, and guess who handles the money? It goes through Rothschild's private bank in Switzerland. About 8 or 9 of these United Nations so-called enviro banks are all run through the Rothschild's private
Well, take
bank.
Al Gore. First, he denied last year in Congress that he was getting money through gore and blood, no pun intended, one of the big climate fencing companies, and then that's got NM Rothschild funding in the news.
Yep.
First, he said it was all a lie. 2 weeks ago, we have the video. He goes, so what? I'm allowed to make money doing good. So now he just admits that he's going to get the money. I mean,
right.
we're openly paying it to him.
Yes, that's correct. This is a new feudal system. This is a feudal system. These are the new overlords who, with the collusion of governments, have given themselves the right to lord over the public. And as I say, they're taking over everything you need individually to survive and live on this planet. We'll have to go to them cap in hand for water, food, energy, everything we need. It's a new form of slavery.